What's happening? This is Joshua Boetsi and you're watching Sporting Icons.
Alright everyone, I hope you're all doing brilliant. Now, we've all had a few days to process what happened with Anthony Yarde and Sergey Kovalev. Of course, Anthony Yarde, he gets stopped in round number 11. Now, I know a lot of people are on board with let's praise Anthony Yarde for what it is that he managed to do, especially in round number 8. And I fully support that, I do. I think that in round number 8, he did fantastic. But there was a reason why he did what he did in round number 8. And there was a reason, or quite a few reasons actually, why he was handedly losing that fight. Okay? And of course got stopped. Now, when you look at the advantages and disadvantages for Anthony Yarde, of course you have to say experience. Not just experience of longevity. Of course, Sergey Kovalev, he's been doing this a hell of a lot longer than what Anthony Yarde is, okay? And people may say, but Anthony Yarde, he only had, 12, 13 amateur fights, and he's only had X amount of pro fights, so he hasn't been doing it that long. Again, that's fine, but you have to ask yourself, well, why did you only have a few amateur fights? Why did you end your amateur career so early? This is one of the most pivotal points of any fighter's career, is the amateur. Okay, so why did you end it? And therefore, you can't be making excuses for it unless there's a legitimate reason why you had to leave the amateur setup. Now, when you come to experience as well, outside of longevity, you have to look at the fact that Anthony Yarde, who is it that he's been fighting to prepare him for a Sergey Kovalev? Sergey Kovalev's been around the block. He's a 3-time world champion light heavyweight. Been in there with some of the best in the world. Okay, so who is it that Anthony Yarde has been doing or fighting to bridge the gap between his own experience to where Sergey Kovalev is? Because again, let's be honest, when you look at the light heavyweight champions currently, you're looking at Sergey Kovalev, Dmitry Bivol, Artur Beterbiev, and of course Gvozdyk. You would have to say that Sergey Kovalev is, as of right now, because he is depleted, the weaker one out of all 4 of them. You may debate that, and that's fine. But in my opinion, and I think many people's opinion, Sergey Kovalev is the weaker champion. Not by a whole distance, not at all. But Sergey Kovalev of a couple of years ago, sure, you could probably say that Kovalev may well beat all the rest of them. But he is depleted. He is getting on a bit now. So Anthony Yarde, in truth, lost to a depleted Sergey Kovalev. But how depleted was he? Again, that's up for debate. Now, the experience, the bridge in experience between Kovalev and Yarde outside of longevity is the quality of opposition. Anthony Yarde has been protected for a long, long time by Frank Warren and, of course, his manager, Tunde Ajayi, who's also his trainer. Look at it. I mean, where's the difference between a Sek and a Kovalev? The bridge is absolutely huge. It's massive. When you look at, say, some of the British level guys at light heavyweight, you're looking at Joshua Boetsi, you're looking at Callum Johnson, who I believe is above British level, but Hosea Burton, previously Frank Buglioni, Craig Richards, and a few others, okay? When you look at these guys, and we can even put Dan Aziz in there, would they beat somebody like Sek? Absolutely. All of them would beat Sek. But these are the kind of fighters, as in Sek, that Anthony Yarde has been preparing himself with to get a world title shot. And people can say, but between Frank Warren and Tunde Ajayi, they've managed to navigate and get Anthony Yarde a world title shot. And again, it's a fair point from one point of view, but again, the reality versus perception of that is the fact that he got that world title shot because he's a Frank Warren fighter. WBO. Frank Warren has a very, very good, close relationship with the WBO. In my opinion, no promotional company should have a close relationship with any of the sanctioning bodies, but Frank Warren has a very good relationship with the WBO, as does Bob Arum. Much like Al Heyman in the PBC has a very good relationship with the WBC. These things shouldn't be happening, but they are. But this is why Anthony Yarde has got a world title shot. It isn't because of his achievement. It isn't because of anything. The level of opposition that Anthony Yarde has been in there with, he hasn't managed to go past 7 rounds previously. So he's already on a hiding to nothing. But when you look at the pros and the cons for this, Anthony Yarde, he's younger, he's faster, he's stronger. And with that youth as well, he should have a better tank. But he showed none of this in that fight. None of it whatsoever. He couldn't even block out a jab. I'm an Anthony Yarde fan, and I'm not sounding like one. And there's nothing wrong with him taking a loss. There's nothing wrong with anyone taking a loss. Okay, and for me, I don't believe that when somebody takes a loss, you should just bin off your trainer straight away, unless the signs have been there for a long, long time and they ain't improving. Okay, which we're going to get into in a second. But the fact is that he had quite a few advantages due to his youth, his speed and his power, that he could have used that against Kovalev had he have had the experience. So for me, I don't buy into it, and I don't want to hear it about the experience. It's his team's fault he didn't have the experience. Again, outside of longevity. Experience. Who is it that he's been fighting? He hasn't fought not one person who you could even consider on British level or Commonwealth level. And I know there's quite a few people who's a little bit bemiffed by this, but he was a WBO European champion. Yeah, again, first of all, WBO, and second of all, WBO European champion is not the European champion. It's the equivalent to a Southern Area version. Okay, it's not a legitimate European title. It just isn't. So his level of opposition has been absolutely trash. To be honest with you, it's been garbage. So many people have been saying it. He should have been fighting the Hosea Burtons of the world, the Frank Buglionis, the maybe Joshua Boatzis. I know that Boatzis is very new onto the scene, but people like that, these are the kind of ones that he should have been fighting, but he hasn't been because of Tunde Ajayi and Frank Warren. Now, when it comes to this fight, you have to look at Tunde Ajayi because obviously he's the third man, if you like. He's the one who's watching the fight. He's the one who's supposed to come up with the tactics and relay those tactics and that information to Anthony Yarde to say, right, this is what I'm seeing. This is what you're not doing very well. This is what he is doing well. And this is how you do to negate what it is that Kovalev is doing. First of all, the jab. Anthony Yarde couldn't block out the jab. Kovalev could have won that fight easily on points just by using the jab. And the jab is one of the most basic things that you learn in boxing. How do you slip the jab? How do you counter it? All these kind of things. These are basic, very, very basic level. But he hasn't got that because he isn't being taught that in the gym. He doesn't have that because of his lack of amateur experience. Tunde Ajayi is in the corner there, shouting at him, lions in the camp. Empty the tank. Empty the tank in round number 8. Why on earth would Anthony Yarde need to empty the tank? Why is that a good tactic to use? Empty the tank. In other words, shit or bust. Okay? Whatever happens, if you don't get him out of there in round number 8, that's it, you're done. What kind of tactic is that? What do you mean, empty the tank? What about go to the body? What about throw jabs to the body? What about every time Sergey Kovalev grabs him in the clinch, Anthony Yarde isn't throwing back? How about some tactics like throw back, crack him in the body? What about those little tactics? Shouting lions in the camp. Showing all these kind of things, but none of it is advice to Anthony Yarde. How do I win the next round? What is it that I'm not doing? What is it that I have to do? He's not doing that. And again, this is down to the inexperience of Tunde Ajayi. Listen, he's probably a lovely guy. And he does take a lot of stick. He does take a lot of flack. And he has the Jose Mourinho way. For those of you who like football, when Jose Mourinho, when he joined up Chelsea, what's the first things he said in the press conference? I am the special one. So therefore, from that moment on, everything that happened with his Chelsea team at the time, if they weren't performing, they weren't blaming the team or the players, they were pointing at Jose Mourinho. It's deflection tactics. And maybe this is what Tunde Ajayi has been doing. People have been saying that he's been acting delusional, etc. And you're absolutely correct. I think he has been. But it is deflection, so therefore people point the finger at Tunde Ajayi rather than Anthony Yarde. Okay? So, but the point is, Tunde Ajayi, what's his body of work? What's he done as a trainer? What's he done as a coach? What is it that he knows that other experienced trainers don't know? Because he claims that he does. You can't reinvent the wheel of boxing. You just can't do it. You could add bits here and there, of course. Nothing wrong with trying new bits when you've already got that body of work. What you don't do it with is a prospect who has no experience when you have no experience yourself. That's the point. I think Tunde Ajayi is... It concerns me because after the fight, Tunde Ajayi, he was saying that, well, we don't need to change anything. The difference in this fight was that Kovalev has the experience longer than what we have. That was the problem. No, that wasn't the problem. The problem is that he went from a C and D level fighters to A to elite level fighter. That's the difference, because Tunde Ajayi has very little clue. In my honest opinion, he is clueless when it comes down to it. Listen, I'm not a coach, I'm not a trainer. I couldn't go in there and do a better job than him. I'm not saying that at all. But these are basic things. How can Anthony Yarde go in there and not know how to slip a damn jab? These tip-tap things on the pad work ain't going to work. Allegedly, no sparring. What is that about? You can't implement things thinking that you are the new special kind of coach when you don't have that body of work. You don't have the experience to bring that to the table. It's okay to do that if you're taking on an experienced fighter. Add some little bits, add some little twists and turns here and there. But Anthony Yarde, he's progressing at the wrong rate. And he's taking a much unnecessary loss. Because the gap in distance is so far. Because the bridge isn't there. And I don't want to hear it when Tunde Ajayi and Frank Warren and Steve Bunce are saying how Anthony Yarde proved he's on that level. He didn't prove he's on that level. He didn't prove that he belongs with the Kovalevs and that of the world. Because he got pinged around in every single damn round. You could probably edge him a round or two here and there. But it's a boxing match. So yeah, but you managed to nearly get Kovalev out of there in round number 8. And you're correct, he did. But what did he do for the rest of the fight? He emptied the tank. He emptied the tank. He was breathing heavy after round 1. Maybe it was the occasion, sure. But after 5, you could see Anthony Yarde. He's fighting with his mouth wide open. Wide open. How can a young man who doesn't have that many miles on the clock be breathing like that? There's something wrong with the engine. Something wrong with it. Listen, it could be the occasion. He is in hostile territory. He is in Russia. I get that. So, of course, that could cause a little bit of anxiety and some brief panic, if you like. The occasion is suddenly on top of him. Okay, he can be fine walking to the ring and smiling and everything, but what's going on the inside? We don't know. But I just don't want to hear how Anthony Yarde is on that level. He's not on that level. He's not even close to that level. I don't know why these people are filling his head with garbage that ain't true. It ain't true. Steve Bunce after the fight saying how I've never ever seen a fighter with that much heart in all my years of watching boxing. Steve Bunce, you've been watching boxing for what, 250 years, man? What are you talking about? You've never seen a fighter with that much heart. Stop lying to the man. Second of all, yes, he was showing a lot of heart. Of course he was. But he shouldn't have had to. He had to show heart because he didn't have anything else. That's all he had. And he went down and out with a jab. Because of Tunde Ajayi saying in the corner there, empty the tank in round number 8 when he's got 5 rounds to go. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 5 rounds. It emptied the tank in round number 8, which he did. He nearly had Kovalev out of there. Great. But the point is, he still had 4 more rounds to go. Kovalev's it. He's very experienced. He's been there. He's done it. Tunde Ajayi showed his inexperience, showed his lack of world class in training. And to say that him and Yarde going back into training, they don't need to improve anything, that's worrying. We've got a supreme athlete here in Anthony Yarde. He could be one of the greatest fighters to come out of Britain if he's guided correctly. But he isn't going to be guarded correctly. Why he's got Tunde Ajayi in his corner. Why he's got people like Frank Warren protecting him. Don't get me wrong, Frank Warren will at some point throw him in the deep end. And if it wasn't going to be Kovalev, it would have been somebody else. He would have done that. Say, hey, listen, I've been paying you a lot of money to be fighting these absolute garbage bin men. So it's time to give me something back. At some point, he's going to have to do that. So I can't blame Frank Warren too much on that. But ultimately, Tunde Ajayi, he's the one who's in charge of Anthony Yarde's training. He's in charge of his managerial career. He's the one guiding him, navigating him, advising him. But what the hell are you advising him when you're saying empty the tank? What are you advising him when you're shouting in his ear, lions in the camp? It is what it is. The rate that these guys are going, as I said, there's nothing wrong with taking a loss here and there, nothing wrong with it whatsoever. But when you're seeing this pure delusional after, that's when you have to think, is Anthony Yarde and Tunde Ajayi, are these guys together? It's going to be a flash in the pan. Because, in my opinion, Boazzi annihilates Yarde. Hosea Burton beats him. Craig Richard beats him. I think a lot of these guys would beat him right now. Anyway, listen, that's my thoughts. I mean, I'm not saying that he needs to get rid of Tunde Ajayi, but I'm saying that Tunde Ajayi, he needs to stop inventing the wheel. He needs to look at the basics of boxing and stop thinking that his ways are the right ways when he doesn't have experience of doing those ways at all. What's his track record is what I'm trying to tell you. Where has his ways worked before? What world champions has he produced? What British champions has he produced? What any kind of champion has he produced? To say, this is what we're going to do with Anthony Yarde. He could potentially ruin Anthony Yarde's career. And if Tunde Ajayi has no clue what to do, then maybe either let Anthony Yarde go, advise him as your friend, go find somebody else who knows what they're doing, or bring somebody else in to help you. There are ways around it, but either way, for me, I think that Anthony Yarde, yes, he had his moments, of course. He didn't have to take the fight with Kovalev, but he got paid very, very, very well. Again, with a world title shot. He's a Frank Warren fighter for the WBO. You don't have to do anything to get a world title shot at WBO. All you have to do is be a Frank Warren fighter. That's all you have to do. Go fight a bunch of bums. And at some point, you'll get a world title shot. Along the way, you'll pick up WBO versions of the Intercontinental, the European, the International, and all these other kind of WBO versions of the trinkets. Either way, Anthony Yarde did not show he's on that level, and I am kind of tired of hearing how people are saying that Anthony Yarde, he's proved that he's on that level. No, he's not on that level at all. Yes, he's got great heart, but he shouldn't have to show great heart. If you're having to show great heart in these kind of fights, then there's a problem. As I say, Kovalev is a depleted fighter. Anyway, listen, that's my thoughts. Of course, you drop me yours. Do you think that maybe Anthony Yarde, that this is about as far as he's ever going to go? Do you think Tunde Ajayi is just all wrong for Anthony Yarde? Or do you think that this is just an early part of the process and this loss will help him? That's what I hope, okay? I hope that this loss will help him. And hopefully it will help Tunde Ajayi. But it does seem like that these guys don't want to take any advice from anybody. I mean, anybody, even involved in the game, they don't want to take advice from them. They're going to do things their own way, walking around shouting lions in the camp. That's a garbage saying, by the way, but listen, it is what it is. If that motivates him, that motivates him. But anyway, that's my thoughts. Of course, you drop me yours. Click the thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all on the next one.